The Voluntary Hardship series is brought to you by Masculine Style. You know, I've worked with Tanner, the owner of Masculine Style, as my style coach for over a year now, and the transformation has been nothing short of incredible. In the same way we provide expert strength coaching at Barbell Logic and meeting clients where they are, Tanner is really a kindred spirit in style. He's an expert coach with incredible service, always making you feel heard, and because he's a longtime client of Barbell Logic online coaching, he knows how to help you find your own style rather than forcing you into something that you're not. His coaching has absolutely transformed the way I feel and carry myself and the way other people perceive me, whether in person or on video conference calls. It's been one of the best purchases I've made over the past 18 months. You need to check him out, and you can do that at masculine-style.com/BLOC. That's masculine-style.com/BLOC for a special offer just for Barbell Logic listeners. Again, that's masculine-style.com/BLOC. You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm Scott Hambrick, and of course, we have Matt Reynolds today, as always. And Matt said, hey, we need to do a show about motivation versus discipline. I'm like, I don't want to.
You're not disciplined or motivated.
No, I don't. There are a few topics, motivation, discipline, leadership, that just leave me cold.
Well, this is why I thought we needed to talk about it, because Brett McKay wrote an article. It was his January 1st article for 2019 called Motivation Over Discipline. And so I want to give credit where credit's due. And I've talked to Brett a lot about it, and you have too. And then all three of us have talked about it together. But it has become the norm today to tout discipline over motivation. You know, and you see I think Wendler's got the shirts, the discipline with the line, and, you know, discipline's the numerator and motivation's the denominator. And it sounds cool and makes you feel good. And, you know, one of the things for a guy like me that goes to bed early and gets up early, you know, almost everybody knows that about me. I get up real early and work real hard in the morning. And
that's not about you being disciplined. Like, you could work when the sun was up.
Right. But that's the point. So the point is that I think a lot of people would look at that. Maybe let's not use me. It's weird. But just, you know, anybody, you look at somebody who's doing something that appears to be disciplined.
Right.
And I could take a picture of my watch like Jocko does at 4:20 in the morning and say, you know, rise and grind, this is what we're doing. And because discipline over motivation. But, you know, The reality is that my mom has pictures of me when I was like 3 years old. And I would sit crisscross applesauce in front of the big giant tube TV in the wooden box that we had in the early 80s, you know. And it'd be 5:15 in the morning and I'd have the news on and I'd be watching at 3 in the morning.
Watching the Farm Report.
Yeah, the Ag Day. I loved Ag Day. That show was awesome, right? So a bunch of you guys don't know what that is because you're not disciplined. No, it's because you don't have the internal motivation. It's not hard for me to get up early. I get up early because I like it.
I tell you what's hard for me, staying up late. Like, if all the work had to be done at 10:35 p.m.
No chance.
I'd start smoking weed, playing video games.
When I was a freshman and sophomore in college, the only time in my life in those years where I would stay up a little later, sometimes really late. You know, you're a college kid. Sometimes you hang out, go to a party, eat barbecue, drink beer, whatever, till 2 in the morning. Even when I was a freshman and sophomore in college, if I had a paper to write or a big assignment to do for college, I would often go to bed at like 8:30 at night, and I would set my alarm for 2 in the morning and get up at 2 in the morning and start writing that paper because my brain just works better after I sleep. I take naps a lot in the afternoon. I take short naps, like very rare that I take an hour-long nap. I take a 20-minute nap almost every day, 15-minute nap. I know exactly how long it is because I sleep with my CPAP, and my CPAP has the timer on it. And it times how long I actually use it, not how long it was on, but how long it was actually pushing air down my throat so I didn't die. The point is that it's not usually about discipline. It's usually about finding the thing that is internally motivating. And that doesn't mean it's exciting and like cheerleader rah rah. I don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm excited to get to work, but I find some sort of like quiet satisfaction in it. It makes it easier for me to do that. And so, I think that this is important for our listeners who are trying to figure out how to either train at the same time every day or eat a certain way, or they watch the way people are disciplined in maybe reading great books. I mean, if you hate reading great books, if you hate it, it's not going to work. It's not sustainable, right?
And that's all right.
And that's okay. First major point to make there is that that's often that we are motivated to do those things that often look like discipline.
I just listened to a podcast on the John Batchelor show, Batchelor. And he had a guy on there that had written a book about various United States elite forces and special forces. And he was saying, Ranger school doesn't create Rangers, it finds them. And so you would say, oh, okay, these are very, very disciplined people and so on, or they've been taught discipline. No, I think that most of the people that jump up and say that they are disciplined or discipline's a virtue are already motivated to do that thing, and they found a way to deal with it, and they're able to capitalize on their strengths. And well, it's worked for them, because I know that I'm not motivated or disciplined enough to make myself train for a 10K. Never going to happen. But a lot of people would say, oh, well, Hambrick's motivated and disciplined and, can push through lots of stuff. And that's actually not true. It's just not true. The whole personal finance thing about cut out the lattes. Oh, well, that's $5 a day. There's your seed funds or whatever. You have to be disciplined enough to not buy a latte of every single minute of every single day. It's like breaking, alcoholism or something. You have to abstain every minute of every day, and it's almost impossible. The better thing to do in the example like personal finance, instead of trying to cut out those everyday small things, would be take one less vacation. Like if you skip a vacation a year, it's like $2,000 you put in your pocket, and you only had to skip it once.
You're spending less on vacations than I do.
Well, it's a Branson vacation. I'm not talking about
I was going to say, when was the last time you went on a $2,000 vacation?
I'm not talking about a Hambrickian vacation, but like minimally, like you're like, okay, I'm going to take one less vacation this year, one less trip. It's an extra $500 to $15,000 or something like that in your pocket. And you only had to do that with one decision. And then it's also very easy to replace that thing with something else. Well, I'm not going to go to the Bahamas, but I will go to Gulf Shores. Whatever.
Sure.
So if we can find the motivation to save the money and then put ourselves in a position where we don't actually have to be disciplined all the time, I think we have a better chance of success. To have discipline, to do something that's onerous and we don't enjoy, and just white knuckle through it day after day, month after month, and eventually year on, is a recipe for an unhappy life.
That's right.
I don't like it.
Failure for most, right?
Failure, then a shame, disappointment in yourself, problems with self-esteem.
Exactly what it leads to.
You think that you're a failure because you weren't able to save all of your latte money, that you're a failure, and that somebody else is. You see, the other guy that saved the latte money, he doesn't like latte.
Right, or he's got some other thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's not, that he doesn't drink lattes,
Right.
but guy's addicted to, or whatever, right? Like the thing. So Brett, I want to quote a little piece of this article that Brett said. This is interesting to the exact point that you're making. Quotes a study from Daniel Chambliss on the nature of excellence. And the quote says this: at the higher levels of competitive swimming, something like an inversion of attitude takes place. The very features of the sport in which the C swimmer, the, down 2 tier below swimmer, finds unpleasant, the top level swimmer enjoys. What others see as boring, swimming back and forth over a black line for 2 hours, say, they find peaceful, even meditative, often challenging or therapeutic. They enjoy hard practices, often looking forward to difficult competitions to try to set goals. Coming to the 5:30 a.m. practices, many of the swimmers were lively, laughing, talking, enjoying themselves, perhaps appreciating the fact that most people would positively hate doing it. It's incorrect to believe that the top athletes suffer great sacrifices to achieve their goals. Often they don't see what they do as sacrificial at all. They like it.
Yep.
That's it. They are intrinsically motivated. By the way, how often has external motivation ever motivated anybody to do anything different?
Unless it's violent.
It's very rare. You cannot convince your mom, your wife, your husband, your son, your daughter to strength train. You cannot do it.
No.
Or any of it. You can't convince them to quit smoking. You can't convince them to quit drinking. You can't convince them to stop eating shit and getting fat. Like, you are not going to externally motivate them to do that thing.
Stop even trying.
Well, let's go there. So the question is, when I am trying to develop a habit,
I'm not talking about trying to develop the habit. I'm talking about trying to get other people to act the way you want them to act.
Yeah, but stay with me for a second.
Okay.
So we're going to agree on this. I think that, or if I have developed a habit that I really enjoy, like strength training, and I want to share that with other people. I mean, look, you and Charity kind of got in this at the same time, right? Strength training. But Rachel and I didn't. Rachel strength trains and enjoys it. And then she enjoys it for different reasons. And I enjoy it. And the way she trains is a little bit different than me. But it took a while to do that. I do think that in the same way that you could apply this to religion, in the same way that some people are able to love their religion or their relationship with a higher power, and they're able to just not shove that down somebody else's throat, but just to live their life in a way that it shows that it's been improved by that thing, then often people will look at that and go, man, I actually might want to try that. And this is where I think motivation and discipline sort of intersect. So often if I'm trying to add a good habit, or I would love to have someone else pick up a good habit that I love and care about, I think there is a place for white knuckle discipline in the short term, right? When you try something new and it's different, it's often going to be white knuckle discipline. It's not what you enjoy. It's not what you want to do, right? Like if you first start eating healthy, a lot of times people start eating healthy and they're eating healthy and they think that they hate really good food. They think that they only like McDonald's or whatever, fast food. And they start eating healthy food and they sort of white knuckle discipline. What they will often find is that a month down the road, they're actually really enjoying eating some of that healthy food, right? That some of the other stuff, like, well, I don't like ground turkey at all. I just think it's gross.
That's virtuous.
It's virtuous, but I love vegetables, not just vegetables dripped in butter. I mean, I like vegetables. I've been getting into it with Santana. I don't really like raw vegetables very much. I like raw peppers, and there isn't a vegetable that's cooked. You could steam almost any vegetable and put salt on it, and I like it.
Yeah.
It's good. But I didn't always eat vegetables. When I was a little kid, I was really picky. Something else that my brother reminds me of is that actually has always been intrinsically motivated to work hard. He was the kid in high school who figured out how to do, it's not called work release, that's prison. What's it called in high school? Where you kind of go to school and you work and you sort of get some credit for the work. And, they allow seniors to do that. My brother somehow figured out a way to do that when he was like a sophomore in high school and did it all the way through high school and graduated like in the top 3 of his class of a big high school. And he just always worked hard. He reminds me, he said, hey, do you remember that in 1997 and 1999, you sat at home and played Tiger Woods golf like all the time and just played on the internet? The thing is that I don't think I had ever really had to work hard. I was pretty smart in school and I didn't have to work hard in school. I figured out how to just play the game and do the least amount of work and make the A's and B's and do fine. And I never got into anything that I enjoyed and that I was intrinsically motivated to do that was hard. And once I decided to open Strong Gym in 2007 and then open in 2008, man, it was like a complete life change for me when it came to work. And of course, even before that, I got really competitive in lifting. And so a lot of people would not, lifting, my parents and my family thought that was just a hobby. They wouldn't have considered that work. Obviously, that's turned into a pretty nice career for me. But at the time, I was very dedicated to hard work at powerlifting and then strongman in the early 2000s. But it had nothing to do with any sort of external motivation. There was nothing there. It was just that I found something that I really enjoyed. Yes, there was a discipline aspect involved. Yes, there was a routine and a schedule involved, but I did it because I enjoyed it. I have tried to run before. We've all probably had times in our lives where we tried to run as exercise. And I just don't like it. It just kind of sucks.
It does not agree with me.
Yeah. And so I'm never going to be able to do that. I was talking to Santana. Diet's a good thing. Santana he was busting my balls yesterday about stuff. It's always so nice. Trash talk the hell out of me about how much I love fat and fatty meat and alcohol. And do I really want to make these changes? And I'm like, bro, I'm down 18 pounds and 4 inches in my waist in the month of January. Like, come on, I'm like actually doing this, But it actually got me thinking. The answer is no, I'm never going to give up fatty meat and I'm never giving up alcohol. I'm just not. So for me, I look at the way a bodybuilder eats. So I love food and I've always loved food. I think I have very sensitive taste buds. I think that, I know you're going to laugh. I actually have some data for that. So one of our listeners will know this. So when I was a teacher in junior high in public school, the science classes did a sort of a taste test. I had a little piece of paper that had some sort of bitter type flavor on it. It would take this little piece of paper, this little square paper, it looked like a little LSD piece of paper, like you would drop an acid in junior high, and you would put it on your tongue. And then you would rate on a scale of 1 to 10 of how like bitter and intense the flavor was. And I would say 50% of the kids could not taste it at all. It was like putting a piece of paper on their tongue. It was like nothing.
Your tongue even does Reynolds exaggeration.
That's right. There's a Reynolds
Your
coefficient.
tongue is telling your brain. Did you do the Blanton's taste test?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So they had Michael Montfort, he poured 3 expressions of Blanton's in identical glasses in Carmen's office and put little cards on them, A, B, and C. And he's like, try them. And they're Blanton's. I got all 3 right. Did you get them right?
I didn't guess what they were, but I could easily taste the difference between all 3.
Yeah, I told him what they were.
I didn't know I was supposed to try to guess what they actually were. I would have known enough, I don't think, to know. How did you know what the different...
Well,
one was like normal Blanton's, one was like a barrel pick, one was like an international or
yeah,
right?
One was the gold label, one was the from the barrel, and the other one was just a regular expression.
Yeah.
And it's really about the proof and how long it had been in the barrel.
Yeah, so just, for me, when it comes to food, I look at the way bodybuilders eat and people who eat very bland food, right? Just bland.
Chicken and rice, chicken and broccoli.
What's the opposite end of the spectrum from bodybuilders is the people that only eat chicken nuggets and mashed potatoes, like
9-year-olds.
I have a couple adult friends, you know who you are. I won't say your name because it'd be horribly embarrassing to you, that like they eat a hamburger and it's only plain. If you put anything on a hamburger, then they're not going to eat it. They only eat chicken nuggets. They only eat, like, that's all they're going to eat. And like, that's the opposite. And both of those seem like that's hell to me.
I know.
If I died and walked through the gates of hell, they would offer me nothing but chicken nuggets for the rest of my life, or nothing but chicken breast and broccoli. I don't want either one of those.
I've got a friend who's 50 years old this year. I think that's right. 49 or 50 years old. And we go to Jumbo's Hamburgers here in Tulsa. It's a good burger. My friend, he'll walk up there, meat, cheese, bread, please. That's it.
Yeah. Nope.
No, it's ridiculous.
The place is famous for their style of burgers, and you order the burger in the style that they make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do, right? There's really nothing I don't like now. So here's the question. If I derive a tremendous amount of value from eating those things and from having a drink or a cocktail or a whiskey or whatever, right? Then how do I manage my diet in a way that I can actually have somewhat of a healthy relationship with food and not end up to be, as I get older and older and my metabolism goes down, I don't balloon up to 400 pounds. Well, there has to be some sort of calorie restriction in other places. So that's why, for me, I don't think that something like intermittent fasting is a great option for the vast majority of the public out there. For a guy like me, it's really easy for me to sacrifice in the morning. It doesn't even feel like a sacrifice. I'm working hard. I'm not really hungry. I'm drinking coffee and tea. I can just not eat breakfast. I can eat a very clean lunch and really restrict my calories. And then I don't go ape shit at dinner. I just moderate at dinner, right? So instead of having the 16-ounce steak, I can have the 10-ounce steak or the 12-ounce steak or whatever. And I try not to slather. I don't need a bunch of butter on my rolls.
Yeah,
although I do love butter. It's good. Like, I can not put butter on it. I can have 2 drinks or 1, and it satisfies that craving. And so the answer for Santana is, I'm never giving up red meat. I'm never giving up goat cheese. I'm never giving up alcohol. Those are things I enjoy because it would rob me of value. I don't have the discipline to do it. It's not sustainable. So I can do it for discipline for 3 weeks, but I can't do it for 3 years.
Right. Yeah. Can anybody do anything for 3 years if there's no violence involved? Like, if nobody's got a gun pointed at your head, can anybody do something they don't want to do for 3 years?
Sure.
There's
no value to it.
Let's take another tack on this thing. What if they could? What if they can do something that they hate for 3 years without violence or any other threats against them? Would it be a good idea? And I'm going to say no, because I think that when our discipline, which again, I think is just this right-wing virtue signaling thing at this point, but when our discipline fails, it's a signal that you're doing something that's not in line with your personal value system. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, what do you mean, people that don't, that want to get off of heroin who fail? Well, that's addiction. We're not talking about people that are trying to conquer addictions that have a physiological component. We're talking about people that can't seem to find a way to train 3 times a week, or, can't sit down and read for 30 minutes a day.
Not abstaining from something terrible.
Not overcoming addiction. We're talking about, adding something to your life that would supposedly provide value. Well, if you find that you can't really do that, I think that's a signal that maybe it's not in line with your value system. So I think that the best thing that people can do is get in tune with what they value, and then pursue those things. And then they'll find that suddenly they are motivated, and then they look like they have discipline. I mean, discipline is an outward appearance of the internal motivation that the person already has. Jocko, who I would never say anything negative about, but I think that his discipline is just a manifestation of the things that he already values.
Sure. By the way, I don't think he understands it, right? Because the guy was like this badass Navy SEAL. He's always probably been that way.
Sure. He's wound up, man.
And why can't the rest of you guys just get up at 4:00 in the morning? Right. Well, because, I think the same thing too, because it's real easy. I get up at 4:00 in the morning. And I'm like, we just make coffee and get to work. That's what you do.
If you've been lifting for a while, you've probably made significant changes to your body, good changes, positive changes. And after changing your build, your old clothes aren't going to fit anymore. And if you just buy new sizes of the same thing, you'll minimize the effect of how much you've transformed. By improving your style, especially in the middle of your fitness journey, you give yourself a mental win and get to see a whole new version of yourself in the mirror. And this helps solidify in your own mind that you're making progress and that you'll be at your target strength and build before you know it. So whatever the reasons were that you started to lift, you've likely found other unexpected benefits, improvements to your mental health, your relationships, your energy levels, and your self-respect. Thankfully, getting stronger isn't the only way to level up in all those other aspects of your life, and improving your style, I've personally found, will help compound all the progress you've made with your strength training. Coach Tanner at Masculine Style can help you with those steps. Coach Tanner has been my coach. He's the owner of Masculine Style and longtime Barbell Logic online coaching client. He's helped me for about 18 months now and just completely transformed my style. Not trying to make me something I'm not, but to actually feel more comfortable in exactly who I am. And so it's been a tremendous benefit to me, the way I carry myself, the way I feel about myself, which is more important to me even than the way other people perceive me, but even the way other people perceive me has, I think, changed and transformed dramatically over the last year and a half, just by the way I carry myself and the way I dress. And so it's more than just clothes, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle. And we're thankful for Masculine Style, for Coach Tanner, for supporting the Voluntary Hardship series. Go and check him out. He is an expert coach that is a kindred spirit to what we do at Barbell Logic. He focuses on service and high touch, one-on-one coaching with his clients. This isn't something where you're thrown into a class, but he spends lots of time with his clients. And it's been absolutely one of the best purchases I've made over the past year and a half. You can check him out. He's got a special deal just for Barbell Logic listeners at masculine-style.com/BLOC. That's masculine-style.com/BLOC. It's time to level up your style. You spent all this time getting stronger, carrying yourself better, changing your body. Now it's time to bring the style up to the same standards as your strength. masculine-style.com/BLOC.
I want to tell I've never done this on the podcast, but I actually want to tell sort of a Bible story. Can I tell a Bible story? No, I think you'll like it. It's a parable that fits perfectly here. So, the story of the Prodigal Son, right? Everybody, right. Even if you're not religious, everybody kind of knows that story. And so that's really a story about exactly what we're talking about. The fact that we refer to it as the parable of the Prodigal Son is incorrect. That story is mostly about the elder brother. There's another brother in that story. And so the point there is that, this younger son decides to take his inheritance from his dad and go spend it on cocaine and hookers. Probably wasn't cocaine back then, but, let's liven the story up a little bit. And so he does. And of course, then he has no money in the end. He spends all this stuff. And then he decides I'm going to come back and work as a slave and be a slave to his dad because even the servants live better than he does. And so he comes back. And of course, the dad welcomes him with open arms and gives him a hug and puts his coat on him and his ring on his finger and kills the fattened calf. And to most people that know that story, the story's over, right? Of course, they equate it. This is, God accepts you and all that stuff. But the story is what happens after that. It's the self-righteous older brother that goes to the dad and he says, I never betrayed you. I was always disciplined. I always did what you asked. And you've never even killed a goat for me. And you killed a fattened calf for this guy.
God, Dad. Like that?
Yeah. Well, here's the point. Everybody is wired to either be self-righteous, type A. They can actually accomplish those 3 years of discipline, white knuckle discipline. And then in the end, it leads to this narcissistic sort of look at me. I could do it. I checked it off the list. There's no real joy in that. And there's no real value. And other people tend to lean towards that sort of license. They try to do the thing and they fail, and there's shame and there's guilt and there's these sort of things. And so the point of the story is there's a happy medium between those two, right? That we can't, if we just pursue righteousness for the sake of righteousness, if we pursue good, if we pursue discipline for the sake of discipline, there is no value in that. And also, if we don't pursue it at all and we just seek happiness at the expense of joy, there's no value in that. It robs us of value as well. So we have to understand, like, that's why motivation is so important. We find the thing that we're motivated to do that's healthy and right and true, but that we have that internal motivation that we can do and get better at. So I do think there's times that we do sort of white knuckle discipline for short periods of time until we decide if we like it. Nobody, when they start training, when they start exercising, enjoys it. Your first day of training kind of sucks. But most people, especially people that do that novice linear progression, about 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, they're really enjoying it because now the major flaws of the form have been worked out and they're working on sort of minor things. They're getting PRs every single day. It gets really fun. But some people never enjoy it. And they lift weights and they strength train for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks and they kind of white knuckle it and they just hate it. I had a guy like that actually got really strong over the course of about 3.5 months. They emailed me to quit.
Like, I quit. I know, I've had it.
I was like, I mean, the guy had just like his numbers were so staggering. He had gotten so strong. And I said, man, he was having a baby and money was tight. And I said, you know what, man, I'll just cover you for a couple months. Like, I don't want to lose you as a client. I'll just comp your way. And he said, hey, man, I just want to be honest. He's like, I just hate it. He's like, I hate it. I don't like lifting. I don't enjoy it. This guy was lifting at one of the best gyms in the world.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, he was at Barbell Brigade.
He was in LA. So there's a wonderful strength training gym there. I mean, the guy was in the best atmosphere, the best people, the best equipment, had this great program online, was making huge progress, and I hated every second of it.
Yep.
You know, he decided to go off and do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and have fun. I'm like, man, that's fine.
My man, Aaron, ran him through LP, put 45 pounds on him. He was squatting 350, I think.
Yep.
He's like, man, Scott, you know, I care about you. I know this is a big deal to you. I just got to go do yoga.
Yeah, it's okay. I know it's weird. It's flabbergasting. Well, I think it's strange for us. There's a thing that brings us so much value and so much joy that someone else doesn't get value and joy out of. I get that not everybody's going to get the same amount of value and joy that I get out of strength training or out of fatty meats or out of duck liver. But like my kids tried foie gras and we were at this nice French restaurant. And I, you know, again, this is the weird sort of dichotomy. Like my parents had never bought me an extra value meal from McDonald's, and
they never killed so much as a goat for you.
That's right. That's right. Never got a goat. And my 7-year-old is trying foie gras at a French restaurant, and they hated it, and it made me sad.
Well, let me tell you, Dad, you screwed up.
I know I did.
You can't introduce some of these more complex things to them early because they'll hate it. They have to hate it when they're 7 or 8 or 10. Yeah. And so now you've poisoned them. Hell, they'll be 40 before they try it again, maybe.
That may be true. I don't think that's true. At least with my older one, she's a little more, well, you know, the story is, I don't remember if I told this story on the podcast, I'll make it fast. I tried to get her to eat Nutella, delicious, wonderful Nutella. When she was like gross. 3 years old, we put it on a crepe. I'm like, look, it's a pancake with Nutella on it. It's delicious. And she's like, maybe 3 or 4. And she's like, that looks like dog shit. I'm not eating it, you know? And I'm like, it's not dog shit. It's Nutella. It's delicious. Eat it, you know? And she wouldn't. And it was one of those terrible parenting moments. By the way, this daughter is about to turn 14. So we're talking about, this is 10 years ago. Yeah, I'm like shoving it down her face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
About 2 days later, we go out for sushi. We go to a Japanese hibachi restaurant. And Rachel and I order sushi, like legit sushi, not California rolls, like actual nigiri, you know, nigiri and sashimi. And Caitlin's like, what's that? And we're like, raw fish. You'll hate it. It's fishy. It's gross. She's like, let me have a bite. You know, boom, she eats it. She's like, give me some more. And since that day, I mean, you know, it's just, again, it's one of those deals. Difference between external motivation and internal motivation. She decided, I want to try that raw fish. So she liked the raw fish. When daddy's like, you need to eat this Nutella because it's delicious. She's like, you can go yourself. I'm not eating it.
I'm not eating it.
Now, of course, we have to hide the Nutella. If we get Nutella, we have to hide it because my kids will eat a $14 jar of Nutella from Sam's in like an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I have a talent, it may be in convincing myself that I enjoy something.
Uh-huh.
I mean, storage business, you know, I found a way to enjoy that. I found a way to be motivated inside that. I found a way to be fascinated with it. I found a way to do a deep dive on it so that it was interesting and engaging for me and was able to get a couple decades out of it. I'm pretty good at finding an aspect of something that I can chase down that ends up letting me express my values. And then finding a way to like that thing, I end up finding a way to be motivated so that the discipline doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, it's joy.
But I think that takes a certain amount of introspection up front to figure out what it is that you do value. And then once you know what that is, it's easier to find it in weird places.
Yeah. We've done shows on the things that bring us value. I've actually thought a lot about those things. What are the things that I do that actually bring me value? As a matter of fact, I was sitting in bed last night and leaving for Mexico early tomorrow morning. I'm turning 40 next week. By the time this comes out, I'll probably be 40.
Happy birthday.
And
you old fart.
thank you. I know. And my wife and I are going to Mexico. And we were making a list of the things that we really enjoy and that relax us to bring to Mexico. Just things like there's certain like smells and senses that we want to have in like peppermint oil in my room. It's just, again, it doesn't actually do anything from a physiological standpoint. Certain music that we listen to that relaxes, bringing the little speaker system, the Bluetooth speaker that hooks up to our phone and just planning that sort of thing out. As a matter of fact, the whole reason I'm going to this resort is because this resort has a really nice resort gym and a really nice resort spa that I can go get up every morning. I can lift a little bit and then I can go to the spa and just go do the hot tub, cold tubs, stuff like that. And then go eat breakfast and just enjoy my day. And so we were thinking about those things even last night. In that same realm, there is one more quote I want to share from Brett's article here. We said, from Richard Foster, he says, "I'm inclined to think that joy is the motor, the thing that keeps everything else going. Without joyous celebration to infuse the disciplines, we will sooner or later abandon them. Joy produces energy. Joy makes us strong." That's it. When you find the things that bring you value, what you're doing is you're finding the things that bring you joy. And then the discipline required to do those things ends in this wonderful, joyous satisfaction in the end. Like you get joy from reading Plato.
Yeah.
But a lot of people probably wouldn't. We get joy from squatting. Actually, we don't. Squatting robs me joy, but I get joy from all the other lifts.
And I actually wanted to talk about that.
Deadlifting.
I'm having a really hard time with it, and I'm going to have to find a way to enjoy it because I know it's good medicine for me. Dr. Sullivan told me so. And I've got to find a way to drive some value there. I've got to find a new way to find PRs. I can't have my overhand grip and my double overhand PR in my squat, but I got to find something like that, right? I've got to find new ways to enjoy that thing. I probably need to buy a Duffalo bar, some things to make it more novel and to just keep doing it because I'm not sure that I like anything about it. I like the PR, but anything short of that, I don't think I like it. And
it's possible that if you and I have the two worst looking squats between your leverages with your
is mine worse than Nikki's?
Oh, yeah. Yours is way worse. Nikki's squat looks fine. She's just really long. I mean, she's just got those long moment arms on her femurs. And then, of course, she's got to bend over so much because her torso is short. But you're also kyphotic and your shins are like 4.5 feet long. Like your shins are so long, it really looks weird. Everything's strange. And with my screwed up hips. And so anybody that watches us squat just goes, God, that does not look.
No, it's terrible.
It doesn't.
My chest is between my knees. When I'm in the bottom, I hate it. I just hate it. My knees are the safeties. Like I just go down till the bar touches my knees and I drive my hips up.
On your thighs.
Yeah, I drive the hips back up. It's so terrible. Yeah, so I've got to find a way to be motivated there. The joy and motivation for working on data storage had fled my life. So that was an indicator that it was time to go. And I think I worked 14 hours yesterday.
You had fun.
Yeah, I did. I wish I didn't have to work 14 hours. There were some other things I would like to have done. I mean, Evan, my daughter, her desk is over here. So I was with her all day and we got to talk. But, Charity and I was just like touch and goes, and I'll tell you, when you work from home, you work a 14-hour day. That's a real life 14-hour day. My commute is 61 seconds, So,
yeah, and you don't take lunch breaks and go eat lunch at Nelson.
Charity brought me lunch right here.
That's right. That's what I do every day.
Yeah.
Sit there at your desk and eat lunch.
Yeah, I'm just like a veal. I'm just chained up here and she just brings me food.
Well marbled.
Yeah.
You like A5 Wagyu beef. Like you just have to kill you and eat your ass when it's all over with.
Weighed 226 this morning. I probably don't want to go below that. Santana would probably like me to weigh 205. But I'm just not motivated to do that.
Sure.
Even at 226, I probably look better than I have all but a few weeks in my whole entire life. There have been a few weeks where I got pretty lean and was, going to go on a vacation or something and looked a little better, but I can't maintain it. Here's milk.
Sure.
This is
By the way, that's how I use external motivation internally. If I want to look better and eat better, like really dial it in, then I've got to set up a vacation or a big thing to go to. And that is the external. But, it's because I set up the vacation, not because somebody else told me I had to look good. You see all these movie stars who, they make massive changes in their body And it's actually not that short period of time. Like if you ever watch it, a lot of times it's like 14 months. They have to, like Chris Pratt, you look at Chris Pratt, old pictures of him and he's fat, titties are hanging. Now he's just lean and jacked, and people are like, oh, it happened really fast. Like, no, man, that took 16 months to do that. And they eat like bodybuilders. They eat chicken breast and rice. And they're like, man, my jaw hurts all the time. I just chew chicken and rice all day. But if somebody's like, hey, here's $18 million if you do this for the next year for doing this movie, there's an external motivation that might actually make it happen. I mean, at some level, there's probably an amount of money that there probably isn't for you. But part of that deal is because you've done pretty well for yourself over the years. And so I don't think money holds the same value for you that it does people that don't. When people have no money and they look at like what life would be like with money, $18 million wouldn't change your life any, because you take all 18 million of that dollars and you would just put it in.
I wouldn't spend it anyway.
Invest it. You wouldn't spend $1 of it, you wouldn't go buy a yacht or anything.
No.
And so, but I think for those guys, I think they're like, look, I can
buy a summer home in Wichita Falls.
They can get fame and fortune for eating correctly for a year.
Right.
And so they do. And so you see that, but that's what it takes. So otherwise it's that motivation's a big deal. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, that's why Brett's done so well. Brett McKay has figured out the way he likes to train. He enjoys training. He's a busy guy. He's also really figured out diet, and he's figured out what works for him. And the guy, he looks good and he's lean, and it's because he's figured out that motivation.
Brett texts me about once a week. He's like, I don't want to train. And then I'll text him back. I said, did you train? Yeah.
Yep. He always does.
Yeah, I don't know if that's any use to anybody, but...
Well, find the habits that fit your lifestyle and your personality. That's really what it comes down to. You build your habits that work for your personality. That's what you have to do. If you need to try something new, it may mean that you have to white knuckle discipline it for a short amount of time. But if after a month or 6 weeks of white knuckle disciplining that thing, if you're still white knuckle disciplining it and you derive no value from it, then you got to change the habit. It's not.
Here, let me be arrogant. Here's the takeaway of the thing. If you have something in front of you that you need to develop discipline around, I think that the key is examining that thing until you find the way in which it fits your values.
That's right.
Another story. The show's not over. So my guitar teacher, Dick, he says, men come to me. He says, mostly it's guys. They'll come to me, somewhere around 35 to 45 years old because they're looking for this creative outlet, And he says, so I was about 35 when I started going to take guitar lessons from him. And he's like, so, we'll work on that. And I was like, I don't need that. That's not why I'm here. He's like, of course you do. And I'm like, no. Everything I did at data storage was creative. I wasn't painting pictures. I wasn't writing poems or any of that, sort of idea of what creative work is that we get from bullshit school. But we were doing novel things that no one had done before, or at least that we had never done before. We were undertaking acts of creativity there every day. And even though what the core business looked like might seem pedestrian, it wasn't to me. And I found it to be very gratifying in that way. Dick argued with me about it quite a bit. I'm like, well, you're wrong. Well, I mean, so many things, almost everything that we did there didn't exist before we did it the first time. I mean, if that's not creativity.
The question is, why did you go get the guitar lessons?
Because I wanted to understand music theory better. I wanted to be able to, play guitar.
Play guitar.
Yeah, I mean, it was
practical.
I mean, yeah, no, really. I mean, it was. And I mean, I guess there was an aspect of that, but I wasn't like craving some break from my humdrum, job on the assembly line or in the cubicle. That's not what it was. And I wasn't trying to recapture some sort of misspent youth or anything like that. Yeah. So I found a way to see my work as creative, even though it was in a sort of mundane business process oriented business.
Data storage is about the most sort of mundane industry genre that you can think of. And for you to be able to make that creative is a big deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Just to consider it that.
In doing so, I had some enthusiasm for it. So when I went and actually did a sales call with a potential client, I think I had an attitude towards it that no one else that they spoke to about did. And that was a huge benefit to me and the clients and everyone. So if you can find a way to express your values through the thing that's in front of you, I think that your motivation will suddenly appear. I think that's the key. And if you can't, then you probably need to leave. After thoughtful consideration, if the activity does not fulfill an expression of your values, that is not a fit for you. Don't beat yourself up. You're not a failure. Go do something that is congruent with you,
Yeah.
Well, there's another show. Go give us a review. And send your questions about training and lifestyle and the stuff we talk about to barbellogicpodcast@gmail.com. And we will talk to you very soon. Thanks.